107. I am PJ. Wookie's not in this episode, but I'm here talking to Eric Yearwood.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me back on. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, you got a new project coming out we're going to be talking about here.
Yep, I've got a project called Saber City, which is a sort of multiplayer AR and VR game for Oculus Quest and iPhone, and I'm in the process of kickstarting it right now, so I'm excited about it.
And looks like a lot of fun, even not just to play, but to make out of your videos that get playing here.
Yeah,
I always wondered the process with that. Like, it just looks, it's kind of like, some people with cooking, it's more fun to make than it is to eat.
Yeah, for sure. It's been very fun. It's been challenging for sure because we have soon there will, I'm sure, start to unfold some APIs for co-location multiplayer, local multiplayer. But I've built this game with my own co-location multiplayer solutions and local networking between Oculus Quest and iPhone. And so it's been a lot of, I'm like an artist. I like to create stories, assets, all the things, but I've just done a ton of engineering on this thing. So there's been a lot of headache in addition to the fun. So, but the fun has been very fun.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can tell you, just with our new space, I don't do any programming or anything. Wookie does a lot of it. We had some help from Tab Games and Garage Collective, but Wookie spent 5 days straight just getting to this point, all day, every day. I could not do that. So again, I'm always impressed by developers and people like yourselves that just I'm doing this and just jump in and go for it, because it's a lot of work. Like you said, a lot of headache, but the payoff is awesome.
Well, you guys have done a great job here. This is super fun. It's great to see your new space, and it's awesome that you got the video playing here behind us. I am excited for you because there's a lot of different possibilities to have some really neat conversations and experiences in here.
Yeah, much like yourself, constant work in progress and adding stuff, but it'd be neat. One of our goals, just for your Saber City here, is to have at some point bring in assets, and we could hold your weapons and pick them up and just show them off. And
yeah, no, that's a really fun idea. That's great, man. Well, gosh, it's been I'm excited to talk more about Saber City later, but last time we talked was it in the middle of the pandemic or a year and a half ago maybe, or something?
Yeah, it's been almost a year, I think. Yeah. Time flies.
Yeah, time flies. And it's cool to see, can you tell me a little bit about some of how VR Verdict podcast has developed? Do you feel things have your audiences you've gotten some fun kind of correspondence with your audience and listenership and interviewed some cool people? Tell me what's been the highlights for you last year.
Last year, well, just going from an audio-only podcast, like we were talking about earlier, into VR when we joined Spatial Ape, that was just blew my mind. And then Spatial Ape, they're trying to rework their things. They're going open source, doing a lot of work. So doing the podcast in their space wasn't really an option. So we kind of just took a break. Going back to audio only didn't really feel good. So, because being in VR and seeing, just the simple avatars we have at the moment. Like you can see hand gestures and all that fun stuff. So it just makes the conversation so much better. So
Totally.
we just decided to get something else going and got it up and running. But yeah, just talking to people like you, like just hearing the work and time and stress you guys put into it, because I'm a gamer.
Mhm.
Um, and Wookie obviously has programming and all that kind of background, but just hearing stories from developers and hearing all the hard work and stuff, as a gamer, my main thing is to convey that to other people who use the games and apps and experiences, because I hear it all the time from other people, like as gamers, like, oh, this game's cool, but this sucks, and how come it takes so long to do this, and why isn't this option here? It's just like you don't have no idea what it
Mhm.
takes.
For sure. Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, we just
Yeah.
love hearing everyone's background and the fun stories about development and the struggles, and it's just super interesting
Hmm.
talking to solo devs to big team people that have a big team. It's insane, like how
Hmm.
everyone's story is so different.
Yeah, that's for sure true. It's interesting when I will see people on Twitter, see people on Reddit or other social apps, and I'll see something that they're doing that's similar to what I'm doing or more impressive or whatever. And then I learn like look into what they're doing and who they are, and then I'll see, oh, this is a team of like 5 people or 10 people or something. And then other contexts where you see something is super impressive and you're like, oh, that's just one guy. And
Yeah.
it's the landscape is increasingly complex and increasingly interesting. So I know what you mean. I'm both like a developer, but I'm also a fan. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
cool.
like
Yeah.
yourself, again, way back when you joined us the first time, you were still kind of, I think Space Wizards was either had been out a little bit or was just coming out.
Hmm.
So how is that still up and running? How's that going? Is that a
Yeah. Thanks for asking. There's been some cool updates with Space Wizards. So first of all, Space Wizards, just for the people out there in the audience who don't know, Space Wizards was a web series that my cohort Greer Dill is a very great animator. He made a web series called Space Wizards Must Die. If you get on YouTube, you can check it out, and it's a 4-part miniseries about this space wizard Sorpheus and his trusty squire and their battle with the evil entity Gamaga. And I'm a comedian, and in addition to being a VR developer, and so he had me and another comedian that I work with a lot, Alex Myers. We did the voices for these animated characters he created in this animated world. And then I said to him, look, if you've got these 3D assets, then they look so cool. They're stylized in this sort of like retro future sort of way. I said, let's put them in the VR virtual production like app that I created, and then we can have a live stream. We can puppet these characters live. So we did that, and we've been streaming live episodes on a Twitch channel called Planet Scum. Planet Scum is a group of New York, mostly comedians. They've got about
Nice.
6,000 Twitch followers, and they do live streams. Mostly, it's comedians, video of comedians, video podcasts or whatever. But the Space Wizards episodes we've done have been really successful. Got a lot of viewership, and so now we have a monthly show on Planet Scum, and that's cooking. And meanwhile,
Nice.
the web series for Space Wizards has gotten into a few film festivals. So
Awesome.
Space Wizards, the web series, it got into a festival called Slam Dance, which is like the off-Broadway version of Sundance. Unfortunately, both Slam Dance and Sundance, they take place in Park City, Utah, and they were both canceled because of the
Yeah.
Omicron variant sweeping through in January. So that was a bummer because we would have liked to have gone out there and talked to some film industry folks about, making Space Wizards into a TV show or something. And then it just got accepted into the Florida Film Festival in their
Wow.
VR and immersive category. So we've got both the kind of animation side of Space Wizards cooking, and we've got the live stream, VR live stream cooking. And it's kind of like, we want to continue to build out the app so that we can have viewers join us in a more immersive way as we're doing the live show.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, Wookie and I caught the first one together
Mm,
way back when, and I caught
hmm
a couple after that. But yeah, you guys did a great job including the audience, and it was just fun. You guys were kind of just well, I don't know if you have scripts, but it seemed like you're kind of just working off the cuff, ad libbing and stuff. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, thanks. We know each other because we're improv comedians in New York at a comedy theater called Upright Citizens Brigade, and
Awesome.
so improvising and doing improvised comedy is really like what we love more than anything. So VR is a great medium for that, and
Yeah.
it's increasingly becoming a better medium for it. I don't know if you know you have no doubt you guys have done your due diligence for a long time exploring VR comedy, but I remember 3 4 years ago or something, going on to alt space. There'd be like improv comedy nights in alt space. I mean, surely there still
Yeah.
are, but
Yep.
it was like kind of painful just because multiplayer at that time was so buggy and the timing of everything was so crappy. And now we're finally getting to a point where you can do it in a more realistic way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of options like that out there. Just you got to look for it. So when they start getting more mainstream, it'd be really neat because it is really there's nothing like catching a comedy show in VR and having the comic up there, and it's just especially during like a pandemic setting when you can't really do much.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Do you know? I mean, it's kind of like VR right now and some of these like apps and experiences or even just like shows on different social apps, they are tucked away in these niche
yeah,
spots. And so I mean, um, I definitely don't have an exhaustive list of interesting things that are happening out there in the wild. Do you know of any offhand, like VR comedy things that you found to be interesting?
yeah, and I'm really bad with names, so when you put me on the spot, I'm not going to be able to think of it.
Oh, no
But
worries.
I'll throw them in the show notes here. Yeah, there's a group, and we had a gentleman on there on the show from this group, and I can't remember his name or the comedy group, but yeah, there's options out there.
Hmm.
Um, I do know Rem 5 Studio. They're kind of they're based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Is kind of pretty close to where I live, so I've been up there. They've had a couple comedy nights, and they have props and stuff and a stage. It's really neat. Like they have local talent that pops in and puts a quest on and does their routine, and yeah,
So what are they like doing their quest inside the club and then it's projected behind them or something?
it's straight up in VR. Like there's no
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
it's kind of just
Okay.
like how we are right now. They're just in there doing their bit.
Okay. Um, are you familiar with Failed to Render comedy
That's
night?
the group I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I've done some stand up on Failed to Render, their comedy night in alt space. I think that they now have a Horizons night as well. But
yeah,
Kyle, the guy who runs that, has been super hustling to make that kind of a go-to place for comedians to do comedy in VR, and he's done a great job. There's some like really funny people that show up whenever he does it, and on a weekly
yeah.
basis. So it's cool to watch that grow.
Yeah, I've caught a couple of those shows, and it's just a good time. It's so many funny people out there.
But it's funny too, though, because VR, it's such a unique medium, and like I think that the vision of VR is sort of one where, in like concept, it's just the real world 2.0, and but
Hmm.
in its current form, there's a lot of things that are not the same as the real world, where you don't get the same kind of experience that you would have. So, for example, I've done in some of these failed to render comedy nights that I've done. You go up on stage and you're telling jokes, and people aren't necessarily laughing, like or they are, and they're muted.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and they're muted for good reason because like you could have somebody in there that's like hey screw you or heckling you or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're in a real comedy club, then there's some accountability for somebody yelling in the crowd or whatever, and you can boot people in VR, but it's just kind of weird because you're telling jokes and then you're seeing like emoticons, or
Yep.
whatever,
Yep.
and that's like not definitely what stand-up comedy is in the real world. So there's things are constantly evolving, but you got to kind of like craft or adapt what you're doing to fit what is possible right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
the REM 5, the last time I was there, they have the emoticons so you can kind of laugh if you want to be muted. And like you said,
yeah.
with good reason. But
Uh-huh.
I can't imagine as a performer, like, you feed off the crowd, so I don't know how well the emoticon feeds your.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely doesn't hit the same, that's for sure. Um Yeah, and also too, like, but what's cool though is we're just scratching the surface, both in terms of like crowd interaction and the possibilities there, but also in terms of what a comedian can do in VR. Is like, it's one thing to stand up and tell a joke, and that's never going to go out of style. But to be able to stand up and tell a joke, and the punchline is like the world changes around you.
Yeah.
Um, that's something that, as a comedian who's also a visual artist and a developer, is an exciting possibility because comedy can be three-dimensional, and that's never nobody's ever done that before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's still in the exciting stage of, like, what comes next, like, just creative people like yourself, just what's someone gonna come up with, like, if you're on a stage telling, like, your story and your bit, and then, like, you just involve, like, the environment and stuff, like, either it's sound or visual or whatever. It's Who knows?
Yeah, yeah.
Unless you're a prop comic, I bet you it's pretty sweet to be a prop comic in VR where you can just hit a button and spawn whatever prop you need, but
Yeah. No, well, that's kind of like when I was performing a lot in the clubs in New York City. Because I am a visual artist, that's my background and training. I like, you know, went to the School of the Art Institute of Chicago and studied film and video, but also like sculpture and whatnot. And so when I would perform on stage, I was that guy a lot, where a prop comic and sort of. So all this is like very appealing to me, the possibilities of it. But yeah, I don't know. Like as a gamer, like I'm curious. Do you check out a lot of new VR games? Like, do you play many VR games, or is a lot of your kind of like research and your contact with the VR gamer space through kind of observing what people are posting and content on Twitter and stuff like that?
yeah, I've I think I found a good balance, but when we first started having guests and things, it was rough because I try to play at least like an hour of every guest game ahead of
Mm,
time. Um, that gets to be a lot, and then I
yeah.
also don't want that to affect, like, I enjoy playing games. I like to spend time in games, and I don't want that to, like, carry over and ruin that for me. So I'm pretty honest. Like, I mostly find the positives, but I do give good feedback because obviously developers want that.
Mm,
But if I find a game that I really like I'll stream it, I'll play it, and enjoy it.
mm,
Thankfully, with VR, well, it's kind of a two-edged sword, but thankfully, most VR games are kind of short, so I can pretty much get through one, fairly quickly without rushing. So it's a little different
mm,
than normal gaming. But
mhm.
yeah, I I'll check out all the guest games or apps or experiences, but then I also do, like, I play a lot of just straight up VR gaming on my own, like one day of my weekend. That's kind of all I do. I just make sure I get to enjoy it because I like it,
Mm,
type of thing.
mhm.
So,
What's been your fave like VR game, or or like what? Because I spend so much time working on my own games that I don't get to play as many other games. Are
yeah.
there any things that you're like, oh, this was truly head and shoulders above it, some of the other things I've done, or maybe not head and shoulders above, but just like a super fun take on something?
Oh, well, like, just for example, my all-time favorite VR game is Asgard's Wrath. Um,
Mm,
it's just excellent. Like the quality, the way you play, you can play. Um, Perspective is my favorite thing in VR, and
mhm,
that's one game where you can kind of go into God mode and really mess with the world and look at things as like
mm,
a diorama. So it's really neat.
mhm,
But then it's also very similar to like a Skyrim type of game where you're exploring and there's just a lot. Like that's a long game, like a 40-hour game. So,
mm,
but then on the same point, like games like Ancient Dungeon, I really enjoy. Um, Demio, we play a lot of Demio.
mm, mhm,
um, Zenith, actually, the MMO that just came out is very enjoyable.
mm.
I've We've been working on our space here so long. I haven't got to play that for a couple weeks, but I was playing it like every day, all day for like the first 2, 3 weeks, and I had played the betas and alphas like 6 times. So I started from scratch like 7 or 8 times in that game.
Mm.
But
Why? Because you mean when they would release a new version of it, you have to start over?
yeah, they didn't want anything to carry to the actual full release, so you weren't like level 40 by on day one type of thing.
Oh, yeah, that
But
makes sense.
there's so many good games like Ragnarok's a fun game and it's a good workout.
Mhm,
Warchasm, Dave the Dev's been on here a lot. He's a good guy, and Warchasm's just a fun stand up shooter where you're traveling in a minecart through space,
mm.
shooting and
Oh,
dodging
that's fun.
things.
Mhm,
Yeah, I just love all the different style of gaming. What really blows me away is when we have a guest on that their app isn't a game; it's more like scientific. Like now, having said this, I won't be able to think of any of them, but
mm.
when it's more like scientific, and I'm trying to remember a good one. It's just not really a game. It's more of an experience or like something else to help with like therapies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know
If that
what you
makes
mean.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's, things like on, the, Oculus, store that are like I saw one advertised as like you can, or maybe it was side quest. It was like talk therapy, like, or if you need help
Hmm.
to talk to somebody, you can like kind of some sort of therapy type thing, or there are medical use cases. There's a million
Yeah.
different things that aren't games, and
Yep.
you know, I it's fun and interesting to see it all uh, kind of expand and change. But it's almost too much to keep up with.
Oh,
I'm
yeah. It's insane.
Yeah. Every time that the Oculus conference, or whatever you want to call it, even though it's been virtual for the last couple of years, rolls around, they remind you of the top line mission statement for the entire thing. And it's essentially like a new era of computing
Hmm.
where, in, spatial computing. And you realize that it's not just like a video game platform. It's truly an entirely new way in which people interrelate to computers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's so many different avenues. Um,
I think my all-time favorite one is like anyone doing art. Like Rosie Summers is
yeah.
amazing, talented
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
She's been on the podcast, but
Oh,
Wookie
cool.
and I sat in on one of her classes, and she was doing like not the Narnia paintings and stuff. And she
Uh-huh.
just drew the armoire and then opened the doors and pulled it, and we're just sitting here watching. And then you're in Narnia, and she it's just amazing. Like again, I said, scope and perspective is my favorite thing in VR, and she can she's drawing this little dot and then just pulls her arms apart, and then you're in the world, and it's just insane. Like how fast
Uh,
she can throw something together is mind-boggling.
am I wrong in that is she in Ukraine?
Um, I
Because
think
I
she's in
saw.
Australia, if I remember
Oh,
right.
okay. Oh, I thought I saw something she posted about being in Ukraine, but yeah, no, she's super impressive. It'd be fun to talk to her. It's cool that you've connected with people like that that are these sort of like VR Twitterverse stars, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, it's so funny because it's like I forget how sort of small the community is in a way. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, there's a million users VR. There million. There's multi million VR users out there. But in terms of like sort of this like kind of world of like VR devs that are also sort of like adjacent to, I don't even know what you want to call them. They're almost kind of like influencer developer type people.
Yeah.
Um, there is kind of like a an ecosystem of them, and so yeah, I feel like it's been fun to correspond with some of those people. Um,
Yeah.
it's remind me the guy that you did did your environment here. He did the samurai game.
So yeah, Justin from Tab Games is working on Samurai Showdown or Slaughterhouse. Sorry, I always say Showdown.
Right.
It's Slaughterhouse. He built the groundwork for here, but Surreal from Garage Collective, it's all his assets from his games.
Okay. Uh, the samurai slaughterhouse guy. That's the black and white one, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks awesome. I almost that guy had some complimentary to say about Saber City
Yeah, I saw that.
on social, and I
Yep.
almost I should have reached out to him because I got a one of the gigs that I did this past year was there was a show on a TV show on FX called Shogun. I don't know if it's out yet or not, but it's a samurai show, and they reached out to me because I do a lot of work like motion graphics work and virtual production work for film and TV on the side, and they reached out to me to create a virtual reality walkthrough of a set they were
Oh,
designing,
nice.
and it was a huge city, like a feudal Japanese city, with all these pagodas and stuff. It was really challenging because their architects and designers, they design, super detailed models so that the people that are building the sets know exactly what to put where, but it's certainly not optimized for a game engine. So
Right.
I had to do a ton of work simplifying this thing to get it operable on an Oculus Quest. But I thought about this guy who made Samurai Slaughterhouse because I was like, oh, I should connect the dots between these two people. I wonder if he could offer them something in this like samurai world he's building that would make their heads blow off. So
Oh, yeah, he
yeah,
sure could.
yeah.
It's funny when, I mentioned Rosie was on the show and you talk about the community. Like, that's one thing that blows my mind with the podcast. Just the willingness of everyone, like Rosie, Tommy Palm from Resolution Games has been on many times. All
Mhm.
these big people I never thought I'd talk to, I just happened to reach out and they're like, of course we'll come talk about stuff. It's just
Mm,
mind boggling. And
yeah.
like Justin from Tab Games, we call it a dev roundtable the first Friday of every month in our space where we have like a group of 5 devs. All we do is sit here and talk about crap, and they kind of
Mm,
share and help each other with
mm.
problems and stuff. And everyone's always invited and whatnot. But yeah, it's like everyone in VR is so amazing.
I love that.
I've had the comments of like people like other podcasts, like VR podcasts, are like, oh, they're kind of your enemy. I'm like, no, they're my friends. Like, let's talk.
Mm,
Oculus guys are great. We play games all the time. Skiva, his undying love for Neos and the willingness to take people in there from between realities.
mm.
Um, it's insane. Like everyone's just like, yes, let's hang out, let's do this, let's play. It's
That's
mind
awesome.
boggling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I have to remember for Space Wizards because Space Wizards is I work with guys that are coming from film and TV world and the artists and collaborators I'm working with on that project. and that is very much a kind of curated, manicured sort of mindset where you want to produce a show that is buttoned up and you don't want too many variables that you can't control when you're showing people a show, so to speak. But a podcast is part of the fun of it, and part of what makes it unique is that it's sort of like anything goes in a way.
Yep.
I mean, there's rules, you're having a conversation with people, but uh, when it comes to making a compelling VR podcast, I think that there is a mix between creating something that is interesting visually for the viewer to consume, but also make like facilitating a social hub. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that that's where like when as far as VR influencers are concerned, in order to like become successful, you've got to. It's going to be about who's coming to your party, basically.
Yep.
So that's something that is kind of like an interesting thought experiment because, like it's kind of like Ready Player One, right? It's like
Mhm.
if you've got a world that you've created and it's just you and like your buddy or whatever, like it may not matter how funny your buddy is, if like everybody doesn't want in on it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Um, yeah, but well, is it okay if I chat a little bit about the Saber City and kind of like where things are at with that? And
Yeah, we probably should.
yeah, that'd be great. Um, yeah, so I can't remember if I mentioned if the Saber City was kind of like a something we had discussed last time I was on the podcast or not, but it initially was kind of like a sort of a different game. It was like a game that I published called Quest Draw AR, and it was like a multiplayer. Well, it was a game you could draw in VR and then film in mixed reality on your phone. And I kind of repurposed that same code base because I wanted to create a thing where you could have multiple VR players in the same space and film it in augmented reality. And so I kind of worked on that and got that up and running. And sort of like, within the last 6 months, Oculus released their pass through API. So that was really, good timing because now I have all of those things working together. So Saber City is a quest pass through game that multiple players can play locally, and it's sort of like laser tag in a sense, but also with lightsabers, where you can have melee combat in the same local space, and you can see each other obviously through pass through in the real world, and then you can also film it on your iPhone. And so, but that's not all because you can also interact with the VR players from your iPhone. So it's sort of an asymmetrical game in that sense, where
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, so like on the video here, you can see well, it'll come up. There's a clip I have where the phone player is kind of controlling a drone that's
Yep.
circling around the player with the lightsaber. And so that's fun because, it allows somebody who's sitting on the couch or just in the room who's not in a headset to like not only view what's going on, but also participate in the game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how
So,
you're doing barrel rolls and rolling across the floor.
oh, yeah,
It's so
I
awesome.
know. I saw somebody just on Twitter, they just like were marketing some sort of a helmet, and I think that that's like gonna be more probably relevant is like uh, gaming hardware that's like, you know, helmets, stuff that you can actually take a dive in or something like that, and it's going to stay on your head. Um, so, yeah, so like I'm kickstarting this game, and if anybody out there, it's gotten really like positive feedback and responses as I've posted clips and whatnot on Reddit and on Twitter. People seem to be excited about it. It's, my vision for it is essentially like sort of like Space Pirate Trainer, but fully like mixed reality and asymmetrical with regard to having other platforms be able to be involved and play in the game. And my hope is to like build a local community around it in New York. I'd love to
Yeah.
have people here like kind of joining up and playing this thing in gyms or in parks and like I'm excited for the phase of VR to come about where people are like meeting up in person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah. Remind me where you guys are in Minnesota?
So I live right on the border of Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Okay.
Wookie lives right on the border of South and North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, we're border people.
And you guys know each other from college or were
Actually, Wookie is my brother. Yeah.
Oh, got it.
He's been
Right.
down south for a long time, though. So we would take turns visiting each other, every other year and type thing
Mm.
until COVID hit. We haven't seen each other for a couple years, but
Oh.
yeah, VR is the next best thing.
Oh,
Watching
that's
movies,
great.
hanging out. So
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's the reason why VR has sort of taken a leap forward here during the pandemic is that exact reason. People be able to connect with one another when they haven't been able to connect in person.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so like I would think, do you know people in your like kind of little your local area and whatever who are VR users, or do you feel like you're like the only guy in your kind of sphere of influence regionally that
So
yeah.
it started out where I'm the only one, and everyone that sees me outside of my Quest on is like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah, right.
But I'm slowly doing my part to where I'm like, and again, COVID put a damper on this. Where like just putting the headset on, someone said, "Just shut up and look at this," and then they're like, "Holy shit!"
Right.
Um,
Right.
like my previous spouse, um, I had her play pistol whip, and within 10 minutes, she bought a headset. That kind of
Oh,
thing.
that's
So it's
cool.
slowly growing, and I'm doing what
Mm,
I can because the Space Pirate Trainer guys you mentioned, they brought out their Battle Arena, which is a local shared space game, and
sure.
I'm dying to play that in person
Mhm.
with someone, but I have no one yet, so
Yeah.
working on it.
Have you talked to those guys?
Not yet. They actually way back, like before COVID happened, they were just about to release a beta, and we were kind of talking about like, you got to come out and share that. And then COVID hit, and they're like, we can't in good faith release this and ask people to be near each other. So kind of
Mm,
put a damper on it, but I'll be reaching back out to them shortly.
that's great. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
they're really cool guys.
Mm,
Like everybody
yeah.
else in VR, it's weird. Like everyone's
Yeah.
just awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, this really is kind of like the golden age because I feel like the more you have, Foo Fighters doing VR concerts and it people like us, the small fish who were there in the beginning will kind of like be less and less visible. But that's what's kind of cool about being there from the beginning is you make connections with all these people
Yeah,
before they become people that you wouldn't normally get access to, I guess.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, yeah, so
I do have a question.
sure.
I'm hoping and assuming you have plans to bring the phone app to Android because it's just Apple right now, correct?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I do. I'm starting up with Apple or for iPhones for two reasons. One is AR is just like, which is what I'm using to create the augmented reality on the phones, is just superior currently than
Yeah,
AR Core. And that wasn't always the case. They were kind of neck and neck. And in fact, when things like occlusion and things like, you know, uh, certain spatial colliders and spatial meshing and stuff, when that first came out, it was AR Core that was actually better than AR Kit on the Androids. But now it's kind of reversed. And so I want to give people the best possible experience right out
Yeah.
of the gate. And so
Yeah.
that's
Best foot
one of the
forward.
reasons. Yeah, exactly. And then secondly, you've got the Oculus Cambria headset that is on the docket to come down the pike sometime in this year. And then you've also got, which is, for the people that aren't aware, is Oculus's mixed reality headset that is going to have color pass through cameras. And then you've also got the Apple headset that is on the horizon.
Yeah.
So my project is fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited about it and happy with it in its current form, but it's also a project that is going to be primed for these new platforms that emerge. And with, there's no Android heads. I mean, the Quest is the Android headset currently.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that being said, like I know there's half the world or more are Android users, and so I'm really like shutting out a big bunch of people who don't have iPhones if I don't have an Android build. So the answer is yes. It's just I'm gonna try and
Right.
push the iPhone version first.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Are you a iPhone user or Android user?
Android. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yep. Yeah.
And
So
it's
yeah.
bit me in the ass a couple times considering VR things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the end, sooner or later, I think that I just heard that like Google was gonna try and create a AR VR headset. I'm sure that every company's gonna have their version sooner
Yeah.
or later. But so I'm guessing that their AR core system is going to be more robust in the near future. So that's exciting to think about.
Yeah.
Uh, um, so yeah, do you guys have any other upcoming guests and whatnot that you're particularly excited about?
Well, so we just talked to the Beanstalker group yesterday, actually. And we've been talking to them since December again, right when we're like, oh, we can't do the show in VR anymore. Shit.
Uh-huh.
So we just wanted to make sure, and that went really well. We had a slight echo in the audio, which we fixed this morning, thank God. So we just wanted to make sure we were solid before we start inviting people because before Spaceship kind of shared the news with us, I had booked out through March back in like November.
Oh
So I
wow.
had to like contact all these people like, sorry, I'm an asshole, but we have to postpone, So I don't want to do that again. So I just want to make damn sure that everything's working, and so far so good. Little tweaks, things here and there, but we're good.
Cool.
So right now we only have one guest set up for next Saturday, and that's Ashwin VR. They're the makers of District M. After that, I have some tentative guests planned. Nothing solid yet. I just, like I said, want to make sure everything's good. But that was the nice thing during our kind of hiatus. Like I just had people constantly like, "Hey, can we join you on your show and do this?" I'm like, "Yes, just I'm not sure when yet." So
That's awesome.
yeah, hopefully it won't take much to get everything scheduled. And that was kind of the fun thing with I say fun, but I'm sarcastic with Spatial Ape. Like you are like, hey, I have a Kickstarter. What can we do? And it's kind of like like a time limit type thing. And then Spatial Ape, it was really hard to like, okay, guys, we want to do like 3 episodes this week. Where now we have full control, so it'll be easy where we can just hop in, throw videos and assets in, and take off. So
That's
that'll help.
awesome.
So in the past, I was kind of scheduling like a month and a half out, which we had many weeks where we had 3 guests just because of like Kickstarter things. It's like I'm trying to find the happy balance to make sure we can help everyone out and spread the word, but not have to be that like we'll be in the headset all week long type of thing.
Right. Yeah, that makes
So
sense. Yeah, that's cool. Building a community and being able to kind of like plan and structure your streams in that way is
yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
That's actually
And
one of the
oh, I'm sorry. I just
No,
want to
go
say
ahead.
we mentioned bringing in like your assets, like just shield and a saber or something. And my original goal, even back in Spatial Ape, I wanted a little toy box where you can just walk over and take past guest assets out. Because like
Mm-hmm.
you might come over here and grab like the shotgun the Beanstalkers guys had and be like, "Hey, what's this?" And then
That
we
looks
can
fun.
say, "Hey, that's from that." And then you just get more exposure and people are watching the video hopefully like that looks really freaking cool. I want to see that type of thing.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I'll
that's really cool. Yeah, no, that's a great vision. Yeah, you guys can have and even like kind of like a like trophy case would get or just like featuring like a bunch of like if one of these games blows up and you've got like one of these cool assets, that'd be pretty
yeah.
neat.
We
Um,
also like a game like Demio, we've had them on the podcast many times. When they have a new map coming out, we could very easily take the parts out of here we want and do the show from inside their new map before it releases and just showcase it. Like
hmm,
that'd be so awesome. That's my goal for that.
wow, man, that's a cool vision. That's a really cool vision. Yeah, one of the things that I want to try and do with Saber City is try and set it up so that I can stream uh in a more plug and play sort of way because that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to and I feel like I haven't been able to I haven't seen a whole lot of is people streaming in AR.
Hmm.
You get plenty of like AR clips of people using face filters or using full body tracking in like Spark AR or in Snapchat or something like that. But to be able to have streaming locally multiplayer AR, like a show that's like kind of in the real world, but with graphics superimposed,
Yeah.
that'd be super neat. And is one of the things I'm excited about in terms of like, since we're on the subject of like streaming. So, um, but yeah, but like having that sense in which you can connect your world to other people's worlds is a really neat
Yeah.
uh, vision. Where did
And
you get
and
these justice models? Is that one of the assets you got from the person who provided the rest of the set?
nope, we had those custom built.
Oh,
Again, I know his name, but he probably doesn't want me to give that out, and I can't remember his Twitter handle. But yeah, he
sure.
custom built those for us, and yeah, they look really cool.
That's awesome.
Anyone watching the video, they're out of shot, but you'll see them as time goes on. We have
Mm-hmm.
plans for camera movements and stuff like that, but yeah,
Forgive
it's
me. Where are we streaming to right now?
VR
Are we?
Verdict on YouTube and
Oh,
VR Verdict on Facebook.
cool. Where do you get your most like? Do more people watch on YouTube or on Facebook?
That's an interesting question because I'm not like a big stats person, like, but I do just check them to kind of see what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
And it's always it kind of seems like it's dependent on the guest, which
Mm-hmm.
one gets more views.
Huh.
Overall, I'd say YouTube probably does right now.
Okay.
I do want to.
Uh,
I'm gonna end up streaming to Twitch. I use Streamlabs for all that, and it's for
mhm.
some reason it's like an extra $20 a month to go to Twitch. So it's like okay,
Oh, really?
so,
Extra twenty
yeah,
dollars?
yeah. Just for that, like Facebook and YouTube are free, and Twitch is
Oh,
$20. I don't understand it, but
oh. Do you stream to like the Facebook gaming thing, or is it just like straight up to like a page? Because I
it's
always
the
get
gaming
confused
thing.
about
We have
that.
a Yeah, it's weird. We have it's in the gaming, but we have our page because we also have like our normal Facebook podcast page. So it's very confusing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
wish
like
they'd
that.
clean that up a little bit.
Me too. I mean, I feel like YouTube um had a little bit of like a confusing kind of like divide between those things too, but I don't notice it that much anymore. Where like there was like a different category or a different set of like settings and stuff and pages for like live streams versus
Yeah.
videos, and but I don't feel like that's the case as much anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
it's mostly streamlined on their end.
yeah, but the Facebook thing is like I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
I can't
And
figure out. Yeah.
speaking of Facebook and, Oculus and streaming, I don't know why streaming sucks so bad on Quest because on PC it's so easy. Quest is just such
Mhm.
a pain in the ass. You think they would put a little more time and effort into that?
Well, I think that that their whole ethos is to have everything within the walled garden of their, ecosystem. And, I mean, it kind of makes sense because they've invested so much money. I mean, everybody who's familiar with what they've been doing, I mean, is it's breathtaking to behold the amount of resources that they've dumped into all this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that I don't know what your opinions were of that, like $200 billion drop in value or something that they had. Like, um, I'm sure you saw that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just they're betting the farm on all this stuff, and so the
Yeah.
fact that they would want total control over it all, it makes sense. But then it also means that they're slower to roll out certain things that seem like they would be a no-brainer for other people. Like and what's also strange is that they will kind of like tease the release of some features, and then you won't hear about it for another
Yeah.
year or 8 months or something. And that's I don't get too frustrated by it because as a developer who's trying to like attract people with the novelty of certain like new things that other people haven't thought of, I wish that the industry would slow down so I can catch my breath and don't have to work
Yeah, exactly.
but so hard. But I think that for the users who are expectant of these features that seem like that they are, they're expecting them. I can imagine that that's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you on the same subject, like not, and this sounds like I'm complaining. I'm not really, but like, uh, the way in which the Oculus like SDK for Unity is updated is like so crazy. Because like Saber City, I was with regard to the pass through integration to pass through, which I guess I've had the pass through feature in the game now for maybe about 6 months. They released it initially, and I was able to get it running. And then, like a month later, they updated the SDK, and the whole game broke for like a month. And they didn't
Yeah.
release a new version that had fixed the problem for a month. And so it was partially like me. I was like, well, on the one hand, I guess this means that I'm on the cutting edge because if it broke the SDK for everybody, then there'd be so many people pissed off that they would have to fix it immediately. But
Yeah.
it took them a month, and so it just kind of like forecast this world where you're constantly dependent on these SDK updates that may or may not totally break your game. It's like kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah, I heard a couple developers talking about when pass through was coming out, like they were just ready, like we're gonna be the first, and there was a couple of them that were, but it's just
Yeah.
you're right, being on the cutting edge, like um, being able to like keep up and catch your breath, like you were saying, is I like if they bring out a new headset every year, I'm just shocked at like what devs can do and how quickly they can act on things, and but on the back end of that, it's like a couple of the guys I know, it's like, yeah, I work 18 hours a day on this thing, and that's what I do, and that's how I have to do it. And it's like, holy crap.
Yeah. Like what do you like um in terms of like people that you're in touch with and people guests on the show and stuff? what percentage of them are people that are indie, like solo devs or like working with one other person or something, versus people that are working for like gaming companies?
For us, it's about maybe a little, maybe 60-40 indie versus like like big company style.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, Depends. Like I would say half of the indie that we talk to is like single dev, which is
Okay.
always crazy to
Yeah.
me. Where they're, they do the graphic design, they create the assets, they do the sound, they do everything. It's just like you freaking amazing, like yourself, just handling all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like I mentioned, we have the dev roundtable, and there's a group of 5 devs that are normally involved. Each of their stories are like totally different. Like one guy solely does everything. One guy has like a team of 5. One guy has like 50 people. And it's just interesting to hear like all the differences that happen with those
Mm.
different setups and how quickly they can do things. And
That's cool. That dev roundtable sounds pretty neat. If you ever have somebody drop out for a session, let me know. That'd be fun to be a
so
part of.
we invite anyone. Like right now in our new space,
Mhm.
we're not set up to let people just join the audience like we were doing in Spatial Ape, but we're working
Mhm.
on it. Um, we would invite gamers, devs, streamers, and try to initiate conversation. Like again, like I said, gamers that don't understand how things work and just want is like, come ask these guys some questions and hear their side of it. And but
Yeah,
yeah, anyone listening is free to join. Just shoot me a message and we'll get you in, and we just have a good conversation about all kinds of things from the life of a dev.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Of the solo devs that you know, are any of them like making a living off of what they're doing, or not? Not really.
So it's kind of a weird split with that, because yes, there are some people like that, but then they'll also kind of do like side work, like they'll do like design or like create assets for other companies while they're working on their game.
Hmm.
Um, Otherwise, yeah, they're just like, we had a couple people, we've heard it a couple of times, like, you guys are the first people I've talked to in 6 months, like literally. It's like, holy shit. Like,
Wow.
you should come back more often then, if that's the case, because that's not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an
Right. Yeah.
introvert, but that's insane. But
You
yeah,
know. Yeah.
I was gonna say it's a mixed bag. That's why we just like to hear the stories and talk to people, because they're all so different.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I would really benefit from. I mean, we in here in New York before the pandemic, we had a really wonderful XR community, developer community that was meeting up in person regularly, and it was really awesome. The kind of core group that I was a part of, there were people that worked for Norm for actually, the core group of developers who well, Max, who owns Normal VR, and then some of the
Nice.
guys who worked on like half and half and whatever were some
Awesome.
of my friends, and they kind of created the XR community in New York. And then there were, like guys that went on to work uh, for TikTok. Now their AR division, and guys who work for Oculus, and guys who are doing other things. And so Madison Square Garden, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but like Madison Square Garden, is obviously the big arena in New York City, but then they also are a company that does like uh, properties in Vegas and different places. And they are creating these domes and I actually was applied for a job and ended up getting interviewed for a job to work on this thing called the Sphere, which is like a giant planetarium, but like stadium size planetarium type thing that is going to have like spatially mapped AR visuals mapped on this giant dome. And then there's also going to be all of these other like XR features happening within the stadium. So it's kind of like a giant VR arena
Wow.
And so some of the people that I know were like, "I've been working on that." And so there's all this exciting stuff happening. But since the pandemic, like I never see these people anymore. So the opportunity to meet up in VR with developers and have a conversation about like, oh, what are you doing? What are you up to? Like that's really, really cool.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because that kind of just happened on Twitter. They're like, we had out of the 5 of the devs, we've had all of them but one on, like just as a normal episode on our show.
Mhm.
So we were just all friends on Twitter, and they were just talking about stuff. One was like, "We should have somewhere we could talk about this," and they're like, "What about VR verdict?" I'm like, "Come
Mm.
on in."
Oh,
So
that's cool.
it's just so weird, like organically happened, and we just kind of have fun with it. So, but yeah,
That's
that's they help each other. Like, how do you do this? Oh, that's a good idea. I never even thought like all that kind of stuff. It's
mm.
crazy to see. It's really neat.
Mhm. That's neat. That's really cool. Um, cool, man. Um, Well, it's I am thrilled to be able to come on VR Verdict, and for anybody out there, again, if you want to help Saber City become a full-fledged thing, please follow the Kickstarter. You can just search for Saber City on Kickstarter, or look
I'll
it
have
up on
the
Twitter.
links in the show
Yeah,
notes for everything
awesome,
too.
awesome, yeah, like thanks for doing that, and yeah, like I'll be excited to update you guys on how the game is how the game is developed. Like next time I come on and chat, maybe
Yeah.
sometime in the not too distant future here.
It would be really neat if the next time Wookie and I are able to visit, we can fire this up and attack each other.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That'd be
um,
great.
when does the Kickstarter end? Because we were talking about, it's kind of soon. So just everyone, there's an urgency to this.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it ends like I think the second week of March. So if everybody
Okay.
can join in and participate and help, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Uh,
looks like a lot of fun. Like a
yeah.
lot of stories from Wookie and my childhood is playing like split screen Street Fighter and just beating on each other in real life.
Mhm.
Whoever won or lost. So this is right up our alley.
Yeah, and I like once the engineering part of it is kind of locked in a little bit more. The most fun thing is to work on all the game, the attack mechanics and defense mechanics and all that stuff too. So, um, the all of the multiplayer networking and augmented reality type or mixed reality capture and all this stuff have been the engine in the car, but I'm getting to the point where I'm putting more energy into working on the actual chassis, or not the chassis, but the body of the car and the details and all
Sure.
these things, and that's the stuff that really makes it shine. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys soon.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes. It already looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And again, like you, people like yourself just amaze me. Like you're doing pretty much every part of this, developing this game, from developing to, you know, creating and doing the art style and all that stuff. Like I don't know how many hats you wear, but
Hmm.
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is. In addition to doing the work I do, kind of just professionally, but it's it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and I think that increasingly there's opportunities to share your game with people in such a way that allows it to be kind of a reward for all the different hats that you wear. Um,
Or
yeah,
helmets in this case.
or helmet. That's right. Yep. Yeah,
Well,
man.
thanks for your time, man. Thanks for joining us and sharing this with us. I can't wait to try it and have fun with
Yeah.
it.
Thanks for having me on. It's great talking to you as always, and I'll look forward to the next time.
Awesome.
Cool.